What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for December 10th, 2021. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. I know we got Ring of Honor Final Battle tonight, which I'm looking forward to watching and reviewing, so keep an eye out for that review over on WrestleRant.com. Before we get into my SmackDown review, one quick note here, a few quick notes actually. We had a pair of new interviews go up on Thursday and Friday, respectively. Thursday was my interview with the CFO of SRG Universe Talking Super Show, the game before Big Show tonight, Winter Wars Rumble in Westville, New Jersey. They got a show coming up tonight, premiering a New South two-player box set game. We talked with Griff Briggs, the CFO of SRG Universe, as I mentioned. That went up on Thursday night. Yesterday was my interview with, as we'll be talking about in a little bit, the newest addition to the SmackDown roster, new SmackDown superstar, Xia Li. About a 10-minute conversation there. So check out those interviews. We had another interview going up on Thursday. The directors and the executive directors and producers, creators of Psych the Movie. I have more Psych-related interviews going up soon as well. So keep an eye out for all that stuff and more to come in the weeks to come. And if you haven't already done so, please do so. Stay subscribed here to the channel by hitting that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up, including interviews, reviews, stuff like this, WWE Network and Chill reviews. We have Q&A videos every single Wednesday, podcast excerpts, and so much more, live reactions. So again, if you're not already subscribed, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. So let's get right into this edition of SmackDown from Friday, December 10th. I talked about last week, how last week was one of the worst episodes of SmackDown I have seen in a while. Just a fucking terrible show. The Brock and Sami stuff was by far the only thing worth watching for on that show. This show, same thing, the Brock and Sami segment, the show really peaked with that segment at the beginning there, but it was a marginally better show. And again, how could it not be when last week's show sucked so much? And usually I tend to be more positive about the WWE stuff than most. Not saying I love these shows, but usually I tend to be a bit more, okay, I like this, I didn't really like that, the shows are mediocre but not terrible. For example, I liked Raw this past week, I liked Raw the week before that. I thought Raw's been solid the last 2 weeks. Far from a bad show. People still say it sucks, but you know, it is what it is. SmackDown, I thought it sucked last week. I didn't really see a lot of people saying the same thing, so just a matter of opinion, I guess. Again, I thought this show was a bit better than last week, not really saying too much. In the grand scheme of things, was this show worth watching? Was there anything really to go back and check out? No, beyond the Lesnar and Sami stuff. I did like the main event, and I did like the Xia Li debut. So overall, it was a decent show, but far from what SmackDown was doing a few months ago. I mean, this was far from a terrible show. Again, there were some good stuff mixed in there. There was some good stuff mixed in. The problem is that, especially with the release of Jeff Hardy, which we talked about actually on WrestleRant Radio on Thursday, so check that out if you haven't already. We put the clip up here on the channel that same night. With the release of Jeff Hardy, who at one point appeared to be primed to be feuding with Roman over that Universal Championship. Roman Reigns was not on the show. This was a Roman Reigns-free show. They never said he wouldn't be here. They made mention of it at the beginning of the show, which doesn't really mean anything. They say that, they've said that before, and that person ends up coming back out later on in the night. But Roman was legitimately not there, unless he was in the dark match, which I don't think he was. Based off RK Bro's presence in the main event, and Becky posting about wrestling after the show in a dark match, that tells me SmackDown is fucked without Roman Reigns. And WWE thought, okay, we really got to sell people on the show at the Staples Center. What are we going to do without Roman Reigns being on the card? Well, let's invite RK Bro over from Monday Night Raw, the Raw Tag Team Champions, and have a match to determine the greatest tag team in WWE today. That is what they were calling that main event. And I love all three teams, but it was completely random, and I guess we'll get to that. But the biggest issue with SmackDown, as I've said in the last couple of weeks, a lack of compelling stories. They're trying to tell a story with Drew being left out of the Battle Royal 2 weeks ago. Some person in management has it out for him, which is interesting, but the problem is that I don't have any faith they're going to pay it off correctly if they even remember it even happened. I mean, we were getting segments for a while with Mustafa Ali and Ricochet, and those seemed interesting, and they did a whole video package for Ricochet a week or two ago. We haven't seen him since. Ridge Holland was not on this show. We saw Cesaro watching Drew and Sheamus from the back, but not Ridge Holland, who I thought was supposed to be in line with Sheamus, so I don't know where he was. Jeff Hardy got fired, like I said. That's one major babyface down here on SmackDown, and now it's honestly really only Drew. Like, Nakamura doesn't really mean much right now. We have Brock, but he's not a full-timer. I mean, who beyond them does this show really have? The New Day? I like the New Day, but is Woods or Kingston, are they going to be getting a big push towards the top of the card? Probably not. So we really, honestly, only are left with Drew McIntyre. And Roman is the big heel on the heel side, but on the babyface side, we're not really left with a whole lot. So unless they turn someone or call someone up, SmackDown is really lacking. And all the recent departures from people like Hit Row, who were interesting for as long as they were there, for a mere month, but they could have injected some new life into the show and they got fired. Jeff Hardy was fired, but beyond the budget cuts, that was because apparently, reportedly, he had refused rehab, or that had to do with his own personal issues, and that's a real unfortunate situation. But the reality is, SmackDown really suffers from that, and obviously Jeff's situation is more serious, and that takes priority. But I'm just saying in the grand scheme of SmackDown here, they're down a big babyface, and that's a shame. Nakamura, they really haven't treated like a big deal in a while. Yes, he's the Intercontinental Champion. You would forget he even held that fucking title, unless he just... if he didn't come out with it, you would probably forget he was even champion. But even then, if you skip through the entrance like I do most weeks, and I love the Rick Boogs and Nakamura entrance, but, we see it every week, you would forget that he was even champion. There is no mid-card on this show. The tag team division is literally just the New Day and the Usos. The main event scene is really just Brock and Roman right now, with Drew waiting in the wings. And the women's division has some potential. I'm liking what they've done with Sonya and Naomi. That's a secondary storyline for that women's division. We have no idea why Sonya has it out for Naomi. That was never explained, and they've been feuding for 3 months now. I've kind of accepted the fact we're probably not going to get an explanation. We have Toni in the title picture. I mean, the feud has sucked so far is the problem. The Toni and Charlotte feud has been fucking terrible. Absolutely awful. The Sonya-Naomi stuff is decent. Aaliyah, who I didn't really give a shit about to begin with, they had her on the show for a cup of coffee, took her off the show, whatever. They brought in Xia Li on the show. Again, cool. I like Xia Li. I enjoyed her chat the other day here on the channel. Again, she plugged. I'm glad she's on SmackDown. But beyond those people, this show needs a lot of help. So let's talk about the opening segment. Sami Zayn was out in the ring in a wheelchair, accompanied by 2 male nurses, who are obviously clearly 2 independent wrestlers based on their appearance. No male, nothing against male nurses, but no male nurses as jacked as that guy was on the left, on Sami Zayn's left when he was standing in the ring. That guy was he had arms the size of Brian Cage. He looked like a mini Brian Cage in there. Anyway, so Sami Zayn was complaining about getting attacked by Brock last week and how he was screwed out of the Universal Championship by Brock as Brock attacked him before he went one-on-one with Roman. And then out comes the Beast Incarnate himself, Lumberjack Brock Lesnar, now dressing as Farmer Brock Lesnar based on the overalls he wore to the ring here, which was just amazing. The segment peaked at that point, but the rest of this was just fantastic. The back and forth that Sami and Brock have, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week, I probably did. I know I was thinking it. These two need their own show on Peacock or the network or whatever, on the WWE website or the YouTube channel, whatever. Doesn't matter where I get it, I just need it. Brock and Sami have such a great chemistry together. It's amazing. Sami plays off of Brock so well. Brock's been showing a lot more personality lately. He wanted to take Sami for a night out in Hollywood at one point during the segment when he started wheeling him out of the ring. What he would have done with him at that point, who knows? But up to that point, he seemed fairly jolly and he seemed fairly, nice about it, and Sami resisted. But ultimately, Brock took control of the wheelchair, and no one's going to fight Brock about that. So Sami kind of went along with it, but they're talking about moose hunting and farming. Come back to my place in Saskatchewan, Sami. Come fish with me, is what he said. Sami said he was vegan. This was fantastic. So I loved all of this. This was by far the best part of the show. It's the only thing really worth giving a fuck about right now on SmackDown. I like the Naomi and Sonya stuff, but by far, in a way, the best thing on SmackDown right now is Brock and Roman. Now, we'll probably be sick of the feud come WrestleMania if they plan on doing another fuck finish at day 1, and they pave the way for a rematch at WrestleMania. I'm sure we'll be sick of it in 3 or 4 months. For now, though, babyface Brock, we've had him now for about 3 or 4 months in SummerSlam. He's still my favorite thing on the entire show. People can complain, oh, he's not an attraction anymore, he's not special. I don't give a fuck. I get excited every time Brock comes out. Now more than ever, because he's doing new stuff, interacting with new people, getting more physical, talking much more than he was when he was with Heyman. And speaking of Heyman, he was in the segment as well. Kind of took exception to the fact that, Roman, not Roman, but Brock was kind of being friendly to Sami, and Heyman was like, I must have been to that dispensary too long. Those edibles must be kicking in now, because what am I witnessing? And that was a great line, by the way, in Los Angeles, no less. What am I witnessing from you and Sami Zayn right now. I mean, this is not the Brock of old, the reigning, defending Universal Champion, and he also said likely future Universal Champion. Very interesting. Now, they really laid it on thick here that Brock and Heyman could still be in cahoots. Brock kind of snapped out of it. There we go. Kind of snapped out of it and went right after Sami, destroyed the male nurses, gave Sami an F5, and Heyman kind of watched on with that sinister smile on his face. They're really laying it on thick that Heyman could realign with Brock, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I just don't think they would really be teasing it as aggressively as they are if they were going to go in that direction, and I don't think they should. I don't think Heyman should go back with Brock. I think Brock on his own right now, and I never thought I would say this, is just outstanding. Brock was on his own that first month he came back to the company in 2012, and I don't know if it was because he wasn't used to the WWE promo style still at that point. He had just come back, or they had scripted his lines, or whatever had happened. But, he had a great sit-down, pre-taped interview at one point before that match with John Cena in 2012 at Extreme Rules. But they did have that infamous contract signing on Raw right before the pay-per-view with Brock, and I think John Laurinaitis Cena came out, and Brock was terrible. Terrible. And the guy's never been a great talker, but the segment sucked, and it really was not long after they brought back Paul Heyman to be with Brock, as they should have. But they've done the pairing to death over the last near decade now. I think it would be very interesting if Brock went off on his own, and as he has been, and stays on his own. So hopefully that's not the direction they're going in by reuniting Brock and Heyman. They're a classic pairing, and I'm sure I would have said a couple of months ago, oh, you got to put them back together at some point. But Brock has been such a revelation on his own as a babyface, if you want to even call him that I think it would be stupid to go back to him and Heyman right now. Do a double turn with him and Roman. I think that'd be dumb. Not that they're planning on going on that direction, but I'm just saying if they were, I think that'd be stupid. But I thought this segment was great, though. Like I said, Roman Reigns was away from the show. They said he was in Samoa training or something for day one. So I don't know if that's true that he was in Samoa of all places, but he was away from the show, and they did advertise his return for next week at the end of this show. So the rest of the show, I don't want to say it was all downhill from there because there was some good stuff. But again, nothing comes close to the chemistry that Brock and Sami have on SmackDown. We had Shinsuke Nakamura, the Intercontinental Champion, by the way, in case you forgot, teaming up with Rick Boogs against Los Lotharios. This has been a random-ass feud for the past month. I like Angel and Humberto as a tag team. I like Los Lotharios. They work well together. I think this was their first loss since coming together as a team a couple of months ago. And they lost in literally 90 seconds to a team that isn't even really a team. I like Nakamura and Boogs, but if you want to make them a team, then put them in the fucking tag team division as tag team title contenders. Don't have Nakamura doing the tag team stuff with Boogs, which is entertaining, but then also be the Intercontinental Champion if he doesn't plan to defend that too. You have Sheamus on the show. You have Drew. You have Cesaro. 3 guys that are having random-ass matches right now, but they could be having random-ass matches over the Intercontinental Championship, and they're just not, because it's currently occupied by Shinsuke Nakamura. So the quicker they get that thing off of Nakamura, the better. His last reign was completely forgettable too. He had like a 5 or 6 month reign from July of 2018 through January of 2020, and he maybe defended the thing 2 or 3 times, if that. So hopefully he loses it soon. This was a complete waste of time. Having Nakamura and Boogs go over Los Lotharios when you probably should be building up Los Lotharios makes no sense to me. So all of this was just dumb. McIntyre and Sheamus had a very good match in the time they were given. Again, also kind of random. They went back to the fact that Sheamus told McIntyre, oh, you're not in the Battle Royal 2 weeks ago on the Black Friday show. So that was kind of the reason why we got this match, I guess. Now, originally advertised for the show was Jeff Hardy versus, I think, Happy Corbin. Because they were doing the McIntyre and Hardy versus Corbin and Moss feud at one point. And I'm thinking, did they ditch the McIntyre-Corbin feud? And I guess they're still continuing in Happy Day. And I say that sarcastically, obviously, because we've seen it enough times I just don't give a shit anymore. Like I even really care to begin with. But during this match, right before the match, McIntyre took it up to Adam Pearce saying, why wasn't I in the Battle Royal? Adam Pearce said it was his Sonya Deville decision. It wasn't me, blah, blah, blah. He sticks his sword in the desk. Because per Adam's request, he had to keep the sword out of the ring. He couldn't bring it to ringside with him. So McIntyre stuck it King Arthur style right in Adam Pearce's desk. And then during the match or after the match, whatever, we saw Happy Corbin and Moss wheeling the desk out of Adam Pearce's office, likely to steal said sword. So, the sword stuff is dumb. I thought it was cool about a year ago when they first started doing it, And they did it for the Sheamus feud, but the Sheamus feud ran its course fucking 8-9 months ago. They got to move on from this at some point. I think McIntyre is a great babyface, but the sword stuff is just stupid. As for McIntyre and Sheamus, they had as good of a match as you would expect from these two. Didn't get a ton of time, but for the 7 minutes this went for, it was a pretty good match. As you would expect from these two, because their chemistry is so great. So I enjoyed this hard-hitting affair. McIntyre wins clean. So that's kind of that. It looks like they're not abandoning the McIntyre and Corbin feud, though Cesaro was seen watching this match from backstage, and he commented later on in a WWE.com exclusive, also available on their YouTube channel, that he would be interested in a match with McIntyre, who I don't think he's ever actually faced one-on-one in WWE. I think McIntyre has mentioned that too. I think he said that on Talking Smack. So that's a match I would love to see, but again, these matches would mean more if they were actually over something of note, like an Intercontinental Championship. So, just some food for thought there for WWE. We were then supposed to get Sonya Deville against Naomi finally, until we didn't. Because Sonya Deville actually came out with new music. She came out with her gear, unlike the last time. And she had Shayna Baszler appointed as the ring announcer? No, as the special guest bellkeeper or whatever. Natalya was the ring announcer. But Naomi, before the match even started, was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. I know where this is going. She attacked Shayna at ringside. She went after Natalya. She was kind of outnumbered by the heels before Xia Li made the save. Now, why Sasha Banks wasn't out? I mean, Sasha Banks is probably one of the most annoying characters on the entire show. Sasha Banks is great. She's awesome in the ring. I'm a Sasha Banks fan, but as far as how she's presented, especially as a babyface, she's one of the most obnoxious characters on the show. She literally went from being a heel a year ago to going babyface, turning back heel, to going back to a babyface all in the span of like a year. I guess they turned her face because they had no heels. I don't know where the fuck Shotzi's been. That Sasha Banks feud did absolutely nothing to help. Absolutely nothing to help Shotzi at all. So before anyone says, oh, she looked good in defeat, she fucking tapped out to Sasha before Survivor Series and hasn't been seen since Survivor Series. So what the hell was the point of the feud? It's just a complete waste of time. The same way that Sasha beating Shayna last week was also a complete waste of time. They had a good match, but at some point, you got to apply the same logic that people say about Charlotte. Oh, she doesn't put people over. It's kind of the same thing with Sasha. Not that she doesn't put people over, because obviously she put Bianca over WrestleMania, but she's winning matches she should not be winning. I mean, she gained absolutely nothing from beating Baszler last week. She gained absolutely nothing from beating Shotzi a month ago. And where was she? She was in the back hyping up Naomi, or was it Naomi? I think it was Naomi. Or no, it was Toni Storm. But she was, her and Naomi have a history as Team Bad. She teamed up with Naomi a few weeks ago. She hates Sonya. That was established about a week or two ago, too. So, where was she to make the save? We saw her backstage later on with Toni Storm, but we didn't see her during this segment. She looks like a fucking asshole. She's like, oh, I'll support the other women, and that doesn't come out when it matters most. So, Sasha Banks is just an annoying character. I mean, that's a hot take, I know, but she's, again, great in the ring. I think she can be a great heel as a babyface. She is just almost unbearable. Almost unbearable. And the writing of her character does her no favors at all. Thankfully, Xia Li, being a great babyface, made the save here from Naomi. Entrance and all. That was probably a little goofy, just because she probably should have just darted towards the ring to save Naomi, but she took her time doing the whole entrance, and everyone in the ring was just mesmerized by it. But it is a cool entrance, and honestly, I'm in the camp that likes the lightning bolts. I thought it looked fucking cool. I thought the whole light show they put on here for Xia Li looked fucking cool. And she made the save. She actually knocked out Sonya with a kick to the head. Not legitimately, but she laid her out with a kick to the head. I think the first offense that Sonya has taken since coming back earlier this year. So I don't think Deville has been attacked at all or gotten physical at all. She did a little bit here, so we are getting closer to that Sonya-Naomi match. We gotta get the match at day one. I mean, how much fucking longer can they drag this shit out for? Especially without explaining what the beef is between the two. That's probably the worst part. But, I thought this was a good debut for Xia Li, though. I thought she looked good. She's going to be a babyface. She was called the Protector in her vignette, so her coming out here made sense. I like this a lot. Not everything about the segment was perfect, but I thought it was a good segment and a good debut for Xia Li. Speaking of Toni Storm, she had a matchup next against the SmackDown Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair, on this show. They got literally all of 3 or 4 minutes. Now, I know they're probably saving the match for day one, but then why the fuck would you do it here? The championship contenders bullshit is dumb. Having to beat a champion to get a title shot is dumb. WWE does it a lot. It's stupid. Even AEW did it recently with Britt Baker and Riho. I thought that was dumb too. It's not company to a company basis. I think anywhere they do it, it's stupid. Even Impact did it. About a couple of weeks ago, Matt Cardona pinned Moose. And it was in a tag team match, but I still thought it was stupid. It's stupid. Just have her win a fucking number one contenders match. And maybe just because they don't have enough women for that, I don't know. Just have her beat Shotzi or something, I don't know. But anyway, so they do her and Charlotte for the first time ever on this show. A completely forgettable match. After Charlotte dominates the match, she gets herself disqualified on purpose by beating up Toni Storm too much. And I'm not even kidding. She literally kicked her in the corner until she got the 5 count and got DQ'd. So Toni wins by disqualification, probably earning her a future title shot. But this whole thing was stupid. This whole thing was dumb. It goes back to what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, from the pie shit to this. Toni Storm looks like a loser. I mean, basically, from the actual definition of the word loser, she's a loser. She hasn't won a match. She's had 3 wins on SmackDown since July. One, she beat Queen Zelina when she was still Zelina Vega by pinfall. She won a tag team match by countout like 3 months ago. And she won this match by DQ. The lamest main roster run I've seen for a female in a while. Aside from Tegan Nox, who got fired within a matter of months, I guess. But even Tegan Nox won more matches in her main roster run before getting fired than Toni Storm has. I mean, that's just ridiculous. This whole thing sucked. And I'm honestly really starting to believe maybe it's taken me longer to realize. I mean, first of all, there was one spot in this match that just looked terrible. That Andrade spot from Charlotte where she does the double moonsault, it looked fucking terrible. And that was 100% Charlotte's fault. It wasn't Toni Storm's fault. So before anyone says that, it was 100% Charlotte's fault. She's got to stop doing it. It looks bad. But going back to what I was saying about Charlotte for a second. I like Charlotte. She seems like a very nice person. I'm starting to get the feeling, and again, maybe I should have thought this a while ago, that she just doesn't want to put anyone over. I mean, not that she never puts people over, but I feel like ever since she came back earlier this year, she just has been, it's all about Charlotte and making Charlotte look strong. I mean, honestly, at what point, I think she lost to Nikki on Raw at one point, and Nikki's a loser now, but beyond that, what one person has she really put over since coming back earlier this year? I'll wait. She lost to Nikki on Raw, but she won the championship back pretty quickly at SummerSlam, rendering that entire reign completely irrelevant from Nikki Ash. Didn't really put Nikki Ash over. Didn't really put never put Rhea Ripley over. That feud ended terribly. No real payoff to that. Rhea Ripley lost to Charlotte every fucking time. Every time. Including once by DQ. To protect Charlotte, brother. Like, it was stupid. So she never put over Rhea. She never put over Nikki. She hasn't put over Toni Storm at all. Oh, Toni Storm won by DQ. Who gives a shit? The way she won by DQ was fucking lame. I don't know. The Andrade thing to me is completely irrelevant. That's her own personal life. I'm not even going to begin to speculate on that. But as far as what we've seen from her on TV, the Charlotte Flair stuff, I mean, the writing doesn't help. The writing is absolutely the company's fault. But as far, maybe it's them really wanted to protect her, but I feel like if she really wanted to lose to someone, she would have by now. She would have. Didn't put over Bianca when they had their match on Raw. She lost to her too. I think Bianca won by DQ or some shit, but it was just dumb, dude. It's been dumb. The Charlotte Flair stuff has been some of the worst all year. I mean, I hate to say it. She's had some really good matches, but one, this was not one of them. And two, she is definitely, in my opinion, to blame, partially, if not all of it, but definitely partially, for not putting some of these people over. If she really wanted to make Toni look like a star, she would do what Becky's been doing on Raw. I mean, Becky, they protected Liv Morgan in defeat. They had Liv Morgan get the better of Becky in various talking segments. They had Liv's team beat Becky's team in a tag team match. Where is that effort with Toni Storm? I mean, this is probably as bad as not even having Toni on the show at all, up until recently. She was on the back of a fucking milk carton up until like a month ago. I mean, this has just been terrible. Absolutely terrible television. We get to the main event, the New Day taking the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, and the Raw Tag Team Champions, RK Bro, in a triple threat tag team match. Now, we were told that the reason why this match happened was to determine the greatest team in WWE today. Now, as the New Day pointed out on Talking Smack, as of today, obviously, that went up today, my review will be up tomorrow, they were already voted, or agreed upon, or named by WWE, deemed the greatest team, not only currently in WWE, but of all time. So they may not currently be champions, but if WWE already recognizes New Day as the greatest tag team ever, which I would disagree, but they are in the conversation, and they are quite great, obviously, then why would you even need to hold a match to determine that? The answer is they needed some star power to make up for Roman's absence from the show. They didn't even bother to explain why RK Bro was on this fucking show. This was a completely random match. And yes, it did tie into day one, because New Day pinned the Usos. I forgot who pinned who, but the New Day won by pinning one of the Usos. They already announced New Day and Usos for the day one pay-per-view. It's not like this earned them a title shot. They already have their title shot. So them winning here isn't a bad idea. Like, the fact that the Usos and RK Bro lost doesn't really bother me. The fact the match even happened is what bothers me. I mean, we've known for a while that they don't take the draft seriously, and the brand split and all this other stuff. But at least before, at any other point in the last year and a half, 18 months, since the pandemic started, they have said, oh, this person's on this show due to the brand-to-brand invitational. We didn't even get that. They didn't even say that unless I missed something. So it was just dumb. This was dumb. So I liked the match. It was actually a very good match, very entertaining. The New Day wins, whatever. It makes sense. Just the fact that that goes to show you how much fucking shit the show would be if Roman Reigns was injured or had to leave or whatever for a little while. He's gone for 1 week, and they bring in RK Bro, they bring in Becky Lynch. Brock was already advertised, but man, this show would need a lot of fucking help. It already does need a lot of help, even with Roman and Brock being around, and even with some of the Raw people who should not be on the show. SmackDown still needs help. The show sucks. This was a better show than last week. Decent, because I liked the Drew Sheamus match for as long as it lasted. I thought the main event was very good. The Brock and Sami stuff was just fantastic. But at the same time, and Xia Li's debut I also liked. The Toni Charlotte stuff is just downright terrible. And there's just no direction for a lot of people. The Nakamura Boogs stuff is completely random. You know, we got Roman and Brock doing their thing right now. But once that runs its course, which some people would argue it already has, where do we go from there? Where do we go from day one? How do we build to another match between those two at WrestleMania? I wasn't really down on the idea of doing a match at WrestleMania between them, but the fact they're doing it at day one again before they probably do it again at WrestleMania, I don't like that. And the fact they might do a three-way, not that that's been rumored, but if they were to do have Drew in there and make it a triple threat, I don't like that idea either. We just saw a triple threat last year with Roman, Edge, and Bryan, and he won that one, so I don't know, man. SmackDown needs help. This was a better show than last week, but again, that's not saying much. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Be sure to hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. And just stay tuned for more videos coming soon, like the Talking Smack review on Sunday. We got more interviews coming up very, very soon. I will be watching Final Battle tonight, so stay tuned for my written review of that pay-per-view on WrestleRant.com, where all my other reviews are located. And with all that being said, guys, just enjoy the rest of your holiday season. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.